Hello, welcome to my video. Today I'm going to talk about Abbey Road Studios, and that is because I've visited Abbey Road Studios twice. The first time was in 2015, and that was as a sort of special sort of treat for me 50th birthday. And then the second time I went is 2022 with a full band. And there's a story behind why I did that and why I did it that way around. Well, let's talk about Abbey Road Studios. Who doesn't want to go and record at Abbey Road Studios if you're a musician, that is, or even if you're not a musician? Some people just want to go and have a look at Abbey Road Studios, but unfortunately you can't actually go and look at Abbey Road Studios inside unless you hire it. There are some options. I think there's some days that you can go in if they have a special event on or something like that. I think I saw somebody, I think it was when Paul McCartney did a show there, and he had, specially invited guests, I suppose. So it is a pretty much closed shop to get in there. Now, being a bit of a Paul McCartney fan and a bit of a Beatles fan, we'll go into that on another video maybe, mostly a Paul McCartney fan, I just wanted to give it a try. I've got my home studio, as you can see in the background. I've got everything set up, and I can get a very good sound. And it wasn't necessarily the sound that I wanted from Abbey Road Studio. It was more the experience. So I was working with a band at the time, a couple of brothers, and we were, when I say working, we were sort of writing some songs together, and we did a pretty damn good job of them. Basically, I'd done some starts of some songs, and I sent them off to them, and they had a go at them and did some pretty damn good things with them. So much so that we thought, oh, tell you what, let's go and try and record these. And I thought, well, why not do it in style? Why not go in style down to Abbey Road Studios and do it properly? And so we did. We hired Studio 3, I think, Studio 3, Abbey Road Studio 3, which is the one that the Beatles used, Studio 3. Primarily they used, or predominantly they used Studio 2, but they did use Studio 3 for Revolver and various other bits. And I think it was Revolver. Don't quote me on any of these things, because some of these things may or may not be totally accurate. But yeah, and it was a great experience. So we had a few meetings, we had some rehearsals, and I was going to play the cajon. I just didn't really feel confident enough to play my own music in the studio, or it was very early on for my head. From an anxiety perspective, I'd only just really started letting my music sort of be heard by other people. And working with this band was the very, very first step. I also worked with my good friend Chris, and we were working with a female vocalist at the time, and she turned up as well, which was great. Now, I made a suggestion. Now, I'll go into this in more detail when we talk about when I talk about the next visit. And I made a suggestion at the time. I mean, I was paying for all the trip down to Abbey Road, and quite happily, because it was for my 50th birthday. I just wanted to get in there and have a look at it and see what it was going like. But I suggested that it'd be nice to try and sort of act as a band down there. Now, the idea of acting as a band down there is basically recording live. So you all sit in the same room, and you all play guitar and sing. And the one thing that I thought was, I mean, it was more of an afterthought than anything. What are we going to do about backing vocals? Because when the backing vocals and the lead vocals are in the same room, you can't balance them very well, especially if you've got a powerhouse of a singer as a backing vocalist. And we did. We had this lovely lady that had got an amazing vocal, but it was quite a powerful voice, and she did a lot of stage show stuff. And to project your voice on the stage, you don't always have a microphone. And my voice, I can project really well. Not that I was particularly singing with this one. And the other two lads' vocals as well, they weren't necessarily powerhouse voices, they were quite gentle and, whatever, reserved. So that sort of suggestion, I think, went down in the wrong sort of way, in a way. I'm not overly sure that came out as I meant to say it, but that was the theory behind it, was so that we could actually mix and balance the vocals at the end of the day. So everything that we were recording was totally reliant upon the mix that we could get, or the sound that we could actually get in the studio. Now, your guitar's got separate microphones, the Kahana got a separate microphone, but all the vocals were in a line at the front, and we literally had we didn't know until we came to look at the recordings later on and listen to the recordings later on, that the backing vocals just didn't balance. And it wasn't just the backing vocals, it was all the vocals. It was difficult to get them to balance, it was difficult to get them. So we ended up sort of having a fabulous time down there at Abbey Road, having a good look round. We got a nice tour. We went into Studio 2, Studio 1. Luckily, it was pretty empty. And we got treated like royalty down there. They are an amazing bunch of people at Abbey Road. And, they've got a shop now as well. So anyone can go down to Abbey Road and go next door to the right-hand side of Abbey Road. There's I think they converted a little apartment or a house or a ground flat or whatever it was into a shop, and you can buy all sorts of things like this hat. I've got an Abbey Road hat, and you can buy Abbey Road memorabilia and all sorts of things, which is great. I don't know whether I got that book from there. No, I don't think I did actually. I think that was bought to me at another time. Yes, I think I can remember where that was bought. So I learnt a valuable lesson down there, that the recordings weren't really that isolated, and in hindsight, we should have probably tried to isolate the vocals so that we could have mixed them better. They're not bad. I'm not trying to say that they're absolutely awful, because they're not. They're okay, but they're just not mixable. I think that's probably more my problem with them. So in 2015, we went down there. Wasn't necessarily disappointed at all, but I did give 90% of the day to the band that we're talking about. And then I had an hour at the end to have a go at doing some of my songs, which I wasn't necessarily going to do, because the fear factor when you've got anxiety is too much. But we'd calmed ourselves down during the day. Well, I had calmed myself down during the day. The pressure of getting there, driving down, a single day recording at Abbey Road Studio is quite a day, might I say. We stayed down in a hotel the night before, and then made our way to the studios as early as we could get there, really, which wasn't that early. Engineer, brilliant guy, had been there getting things ready, setting things up, and we started. But at the end of the our grandfather clock going in the background. But at the end of the day, I had around about an hour, and I thought, yeah, go on, I'm going to have a go at I'll do my stuff. It was sort of planned to do it, but I wasn't confident that I'd feel like doing it, And I thought, oh, stuff it, let's do it. So I did that, and I recorded 3 of my tracks or 4 of my tracks within the hour, just pretty much straight off. A couple of them we did twice, but that was about it. But we had the same problem, and that's when you're introducing a powerful vocal into the mix. It went over my microphone. It went over the guitar, and it was almost impossible to mix it out. So I learned a very valuable lesson whilst doing that. Again, we had an amazing time. We had a fabulous time. There was absolutely nothing wrong with what we did down there. However, I think if we'd have isolated it, well, it might not have been so much fun. But then I proved it could be the next time we went down. So that was great. We didn't necessarily get anything out of that particularly. We might find a way to mix it at some point and manage to sort of balance things accordingly. But there's no need for us to do that. You know, it's something that can be done in the future. So then I realised, and I was told, because the one track that I did on my own, and this was piece by piece, I did one track just on my own with my guitar, and that's all. And that was easily balanceable and easily mixed and easily produced, mastered, whatever, that went out. And so everybody that I played that to, you know, I sort of booked up a bit of courage to, if that's the right word to use, booked up, or probably not, but got up a bit of courage to show people it. And everyone said, well, why were you recording other people's, you know, with other people? You should just do it yourself, have a go yourself. And I thought about that. And then I thought, well, yeah, okay. So I did think about it quite a long time, because I never got round to going down to Abbey Road again until 2022. So in 2022, I don't know exactly when it was. I know when we went down to Abbey Road, which was October 2022, but I didn't know for certain when we actually started thinking about it. There's some good friends of mine that I've been, you know, involved in music with since I was very young, probably 30 years, 40, I don't know, a lot of years. And they're excellent musicians. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try and do some of my stuff. So I got so many of my songs together, and I can go into the songs and the details and all that sort of stuff, possibly in another video. But in this video, I just really want to talk about the Abbey Road and the difference between isolating everything and, you know, and doing it that way. So we thought, yeah, okay, we've got a band together. We've got 10 songs. One of them was a cover for another friend of mine, David Mindel. He wrote this song, Don't Throw It All Away. And we decided to throw that into the mix as well. And if we had time, that is. But we'd got 10 of my originals or 9 of my originals, I can't remember exactly. And we went down there and I said, look, I've learned from experience that, yeah, it's brilliant to play live. It's amazing to play all together. But there's certain things that need to be isolated. So what we did is we'd got the drums and the bass guitar and the lead rhythm guitar in one room, and me and my guitar in the other room. Now, it was still a little difficult because I'm playing my guitar and singing, so I can't really isolate it. But anyone that knows how I do what I do would probably think that mightn't be that much of a risk, because generally I can get my vocals right quite quickly. And there's other people telling me that. I don't know whether I do or don't until I listen to it back. But yeah, there are some things that I'd like to have maybe changed on some of the takes that we did. But on the whole, they were mostly okay. And then so we're down there, we're doing our thing. And the one thing about Abbey Road is is that this time we had 2 days. So we got 2 days to do a whole album. And that means you've got to rehearse and you've got to get it right. And luckily, we did. It all slotted together. We got a brilliant drummer, brilliant guitarist, brilliant bass player. And I was averagely okay on my guitar. And we just did what we did. And it worked really well. And we found out that there was somebody in the vicinity, a friend of David Mindel's, that would probably quite like to have a look around Abbey Road. So I said, yeah, by all means, come along. It'd be great to see you. And then I realised what I'd just done. So basically, I'd just invited one of the most well-known singers in the world's daughter to an Abbey Road session. So she's like major professional, sort of, knows what she's doing, and I'm sort of fumbling in the dark in Abbey Road Studios. And it sort of dawned on me, oh, she turns up, that's going to be interesting. That might be a bit frightening. And it wasn't. It was great. So the young lady in question was Ashley Campbell, who's Glenn Campbell's daughter. And she has a phenomenal vocal and a phenomenal head for songwriting. She's something, I don't know whether Glenn Campbell ever wrote any songs. He may have written lyrics, he may have done something like that, but I don't think he did in my head. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he did. But Ashley can definitely write songs. And so she turned up and she stood there, and in some ways, luckily, we weren't playing when she came into the studio. But we were listening to the track that we'd just recorded, and the track we'd just recorded, I think, was Some Light Shines. And we got this lovely young lady as well come down to add some oboe and violin. And she did a wonderful job. And we were just listening to it and sitting back and thinking, well, I think all of us were thinking, my God, was that us? Did we do that? And you're listening to it on, thousands of pounds worth of equipment at Abbey Road. Speakers, just one speaker at Abbey Road would be my entire setup cost. And we sat there and enjoyed every minute of listening to it. And I managed to sort of calm myself down reasonably well. First day was a bit troubled. The second day, after Ashley turning up, and then we went back on the second day, I was so relaxed and we got so much done. And I think the second day was actually a better day of recording, even though we did really well on the first day. I think the second day was really, really good. So I suppose so that was 2022. We did that. We've released the album and it worked. The isolation of my vocals and the isolation of the drums and having the lead guitar, bass guitar in the same room. They're all instruments that are recorded with a DI, that's what we call it, DI direct injection, which means that the cable goes, it's just plugged into their electric guitars. The drums were acoustic, they had their own space. The piano, we had a brilliant pianist come down with us as well. And the piano was isolated in another room. We did have, I think, a Fender Rhodes piano. We also had, just for those you Beatles fans, we used the Beatles upright piano that was used on Penny Lane or something like, it was either Penny Lane or something like that. And it got 4 pedals, or 3 pedals, can't remember. Probably 4 pedals. And the reason for that was because the Beatles wanted it to do something weird or different or damper or an extra damper or something on the piano. And you press this pedal down and it, closed it off a little bit more. So we used the Beatles piano. Say the Beatles piano, but, I'm sure everybody else used it as well. And definitely Pink Floyd used it. Because that was where The Dark Side of the Moon was recorded. In Studio 3, which is another, brilliant story. So we'd got the piano, we'd got the Hammond organ that John Lennon and Paul McCartney used to use. You can see it on the Get Back video, actually, I think, the Hammond organ. I don't know whether it's exactly the same one, but there's a cigarette burn on the right-hand side. And the engineer said, we think that was from either John Lennon or Paul McCartney. I'm thinking, well, who else gets to touch or play such an iconic instrument? I have to say it was a little bit noisy, but it was good. And so we used that, the organ. I don't actually think that we ended up using the organ, the organ track in it. I'm not sure, or did we? I can't remember. Anyway, I'll have to listen to my album again. And then, so we used that. And then the engineer, who's a brilliant engineer as well, decided that what he would do is he would try and put the drums, which obviously there's a lot of microphones on a drum kit, Well, say obviously, you might not know that, but there is. You can see there's got quite a few microphones. You've got your overheads and all sorts of things, but I diverse, don't want to do that. So we basically put the drums through the Beatles refurbished 4-track mixer. So they used that in Studio 2, and it'd been bought from Studio 2 to Studio 3 and set up for anyone that wanted to have a play with it. Well, our engineer really wanted to have a play with it, and we were quite happy to put the drums through it. So we put the drums through that mixer and then into the main desk. Anyway, to cut a long story short, the sound that we got was phenomenal. I bought all the separate stems, they call them stems, that's basically each individual track. Brought them all back to my studio, which wasn't quite set up because we was having an extension done on the back of the house. I hadn't got all the soundproofing in, so when I listened to it, I just couldn't quite get it all right, so I had to wait. So waited till I got all this soundproofing in, you know. I say soundproofing, it's acoustic treatment, that's what they call it. So it literally just makes the room a little deader, so you get less of an echo in it. So I then started mixing, and the results were pretty good. Well, we think they were good. And if you don't mind, or if you want to, why not go and have a listen? The album was called Some Light Shines, recorded down at Abbey Road Studios in 2022, October, me and a lot of my friends. And we had a great time. But we did learn a lesson, and that lesson was, as I said. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I shall try and do some more. Have a great evening or day or wherever you are. Thank you very much. Goodbye.